Well, the first thing I would do is give some relief to the salaried persons, which is the standard deduction that is available both in the old regime and the new tax regime is rupees 50,000. I would consider increasing this up to even 1 lakh or maybe a little bit more, 1.5 lakhs, as it will give a significant relief for salaried persons. Under the new regime, there are no exemptions, there are no deductions, nothing is available. So increasing the standard deduction for them up to 1.5 lakhs will also be very, very beneficial. The second critical thing is pertaining to your long-term capital gains. The long-term capital gains on sale of equity shares, which are listed on a recognized stock exchange, used to be fully exempt from tax. Till few years back, it was brought again to tax, and then it was given an exemption up to 1 lakh rupees. Now it is my proposal or my request that this could be increased up to 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs. As most people can see, the markets have been growing up substantially, especially after COVID. There has been a huge jump, and now it has gone up by more than 200% from what it was during the COVID times. So you will see significant capital appreciation, and having merely 1 lakh as exempt may not be highly beneficial to the taxpayers. So increasing the exemption from 1 lakh up to 3 lakhs will give a huge sigh of relief for many tax persons or taxpayers who are trading in shares. The third critical change that I would really like to see is further benefits to the old regime. While the new regime was significantly incentivized in the last budget, the old regime still stays largely the same. If there can be further incentives, increase in the ATD, increase in the standard deduction, marking up your exemptions, the section 10 exemptions available to salaried persons hasn't changed in, I think, more than a decade now. There has been no increase in line with the inflation. So making such changes will at least reflect the true reality of the expenses and outflows incurred by the taxpayers today, and the salaried persons who are adopting the old regime will stand to benefit from this. The fourth critical item is the TCS rates. Last year in 1st of October, the TCS rates for remittances abroad was increased to 20%, which is a pretty high amount. It is my proposal and request that this amount can be relooked at, because 20% is a significant figure. If somebody is remitting the money for their children or for their relatives for their expenses there, they are forced to deduct a 20% tax and then give it. Yes, you may get it as a refund later, but still imagine receiving only 80% of the money that you are supposed to receive. That may be a significant setback for the person who's getting the money. The giver may say, okay, 1 year later I'll file my refund and get it back, but the recipient will struggle with just 80% of the money instead of the 100%. So if this can be reduced to say 10% or maybe 5%, the tracking mechanism is still there. The government can still track the transaction. All it needs to do is to ensure that if the TCS is reduced, the remittances also will be done in a more free manner, and it will be used by the recipient also. At the same time, the department also can track the transaction and take necessary action if the tax disclosures are improper. The next provision that I would like to see changed is the MSME payments. 43B was amended, where now if MSME payments are made to MSME entities, any amounts that are paid, if it is not paid within 45 days, then it will be deemed to be an expense which will not be allowable. So only at the time of payment it will be allowable. Now this is a very, very well intentioned amendment which was brought about in the last budget, which is coming into effect from this year. But having said that, there are certain practical challenges. Many businesses exist where the normal terms of agreement for settling the dues is easily 90 days, 120 days, sometimes even longer. So all of these persons are put under severe stress, where the expenditure, they cannot claim it till they make the payment, when it is actually a real expense. Well, it's a real expense. So maybe considering increasing these number of days or deferring the application of this provision by a year will help most of the businesses today. So this is the next request. The final request that I would like to see implemented in this budget is a very, very small request, but a very, very critical thing, which is for non-residents. You see, when a resident purchases a property for more than 50 lakhs rupees, TDS at 1% is enough. Whereas a non-resident, on every single rupee of a sale of a property, he will have to deduct 20% TDS on it. And the process is also very onerous. He has to get a TAN number, he has to file the form 13 if he wants a TDS deduction, then he has to ensure that the quarterly returns are filed by the buyer, and it takes another 4 months before it reflects in his TDS return or his 26 years. Suppose there's a failure on part of the buyer, then he has to make an application to the income tax department, request them to take action. But in the process of filing the return, the credit is not automatically given. He is either forced to go on an appeal or forced to file a petition. So simplifying the process of the TDS returns or the TDS at the time of deduction while selling a property of a non-resident will be a hugely welcome initiative. So these are my wish list, and I hope and I am sure the finance minister will bring out a very wonderful budget in 2024. Even though it's an interim budget and vote on account, it will be, I am sure, with significant application of mind and significant benefits for India as a whole to take us to a $7 trillion economy soon. So thank you very much.